Hey guys, so after going to class today, I saw that a lot of people had questions on specific kinds of problems. So I just wanted to do a couple that I thought were reflective of the kinds of problems people were having with the homework. So here goes. So the first problem is 25m squared equals 9. And we're going to start by just doing the same things that we've normally done, is by trying to isolate our m squared and get it by itself. So in this problem we're going to have to divide both sides by 25. And you get m squared is equal to 9 over 25. Now our next step is going to be to get m by itself. So we'll need to take the square root, and if we do it to one side we have to do it to the other side. And we should always put in a plus or minus whenever we do a square root, because of what we did before that shows there's always a positive and a negative value that gives you your squared value. So now what we have is that m equals positive square root of 9 over 25, and m equals negative, based on that, root square root of 9 over 25. So our next step is going to be to work this out without a calculator. And to do that, we can't really, 9 over 25 isn't a number that I know the square root of, but because of the distributive property, we can rewrite this as m equals the positive value of the square root of 9 over the square root of 25. Because all we did was distribute the square root to both terms, and we haven't changed the problem. And now I know that the square root of 9 is going to give me 3. So we can say that m is going to be 3, because that's the square root of 9. And it's going to be over 5, because 5 is the square root of 25. So this will be one value, positive 3/5. And now we have to finish working through this part. So we'll set it up again the same way using the distributive property. So negative, oops, I'm already thinking ahead, 9 over square root of 25. So m is going to be the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 25 is 5. And this is negative. So the solution to this problem is going to be that m is positive 3/5, or m can be negative 3/5. Alright, so the next problem we're going to look at is w squared over 5, so divided by 5, equals 25. So we're going to start by trying to isolate our squared term. So since we're dividing by 5 here, to get rid of it, we'll multiply by 5. Multiply this side by 5 and multiply this side by 5. So we'll be left with w squared here, because these will cancel, equals 25 times 5, which is going to be 125. And now we just set this up like our normal problem. To get w by itself, we'll want to take the square root of it. W squared by itself, we'll want to take the square root. And we'll take the square root of 125, because we have to do it to both sides. And then we'll put in our plus and minus here. So we'll have w equals a positive square root of 125. And w equals a negative square root of 125. So there is no perfect square for 125. There's no number, no whole integer that you can multiply by itself to get 125. But what we can do without a calculator is to break this up into its factors and see if there's a perfect square amongst any of those factors. So the factors of 125 are going to be, the first is 1 and 125, multiply to get 125, and the only other one is 5 and 25. So the only perfect square that I see here is 25. So because of the commutative property of multiplication, this is how we can rewrite this problem. W equals the positive of the square root of 5 times 25. And then we can go even further and say W equals the positive value of root 5 times the square root of 25. So now, the square root of 25, we should know by now, is 5. So this will just be 5 down here. And this will stay root 5, and this will stay positive. And the way that the book and pretty much everyone will want you to write this is that you have W equal to the positive 5 times the square root of 5. And that'll be one answer. And over here, let's work this out. So W equals negative square root of 5 times 25. W equals negative square root of 5 times square root of 25. So W is going to be negative times the square root of 5 times the square root of 25 is going to be just 5. So we have the same thing over here. There's just a negative value in front. So W is going to be negative 5 root 5 or 5 root 5. And that's how we can do these problems that will have some sort of decimal answer in actually without a calculator. Let's take a look at one more. This one says that 6 times p squared equals 138. So start the same way by trying to isolate the p squared. So since we're doing multiplication to it, to get rid of it, we'll divide. So divide this side by 6 and divide this side by 6. Over here you'll just get p squared. Let's see, 138 divided by 6. 6 goes into 1, never. 6 goes into 13 twice, that's 12. Remainder 1, bring down our 8. 6 goes into 18 3 times. So p squared is going to be 23. Now all we do is set this up like our normal problems. We'll take the square root here to get p by itself. Square root this side as well. Put the plus and minus in. So you'll have p is equal to positive root 23 and p is equal to negative root 23. So what we did last time was that we found factors of 25 or 150 or whatever we needed to look for to simplify this as much as we can. What happens here is that 23 is a prime number. So because it's prime, that means you can only get, the only factors of it are 1 in itself. So we're just going to end up leaving it this way. I know that might seem confusing, and if you look in the back of the book they might give you a decimal value, but for the purposes of our class, and since we'll be asking you to do things by hand without a calculator, you can just leave it like this as long as this number is prime. Alright, well I hope that helped and cleared up any questions that you might have. If you have any additional questions, post them to comments or just send me an email. Have a good night.